Hi, Crystal. It's good to talk with you again.
Hi, Judy. It's great to talk with you.
So, today we're here and we are going to talk about Crystal's life, not just her book. She has a book called Label Breaker, and I have had a lot of things come up through life about labels over my own life, over others, and was going to write something about the limitations of that, breaking the limitations. And then I ran across Crystal and a mutual group and went, Crystal, we need to talk, you know? So we did. And I shared with her that I was doing these conversations. And so now that we're getting started again, we are glad to have Crystal join us. So today we're going to just talk a little more. And Crystal, why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
So I am a mother of four, a grandmother of two. Most of them are grown. We still have a 15-year-old at home, so still doing some homeschool and different stuff with her. But our family is pretty much a fourth generation Colorado natives, but we just recently moved to Tennessee, in the Nashville area, almost 5 years ago now. But part of that move had to do with kind of following our calling, and with the book, a lot of my author mentors were here, wanted to be closer into circles to connect with them and grow in that community. So that's kind of why we came out here. My husband wanted more trees and lakes and water, and because we've been in a drought in Colorado, and he definitely got it. It rains here all the time. So, but that's just a little bit of where we are right now. So,
Yeah, a lot of people in Colorado go there because they love the skiing in the mountains. Yeah.
yes, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. So,
It
do
is.
miss the mountains definitely, and the temperatures. Tennessee's hot and humid.
Yeah. We've got that in
But
Michigan right now. So,
oh, I bet.
so the last couple of weeks, Brenda and I, we were just talking about the uniqueness of people and what kind of things hinder. And one of those big hindrances is labels.
Mhm.
Um, and recently, a lot of people know me as an artist, and they don't realize that my degree is in business, and my ministry has some of it has been through business and community development. And yeah, I'm like, don't put me in a box, so we put a lot of people in boxes.
Yes.
And so today let's talk about some ways to some of those boxes so that we can identify, because we can't break out of a box unless we know we're in one, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
So
right. So yeah, I mean, that was when I wrote Label Breaker. It had been quite a journey with God, probably the last 10 years that he was slowly breaking off a lot of those boxes, those fears. That fear is a big one. Fear attaches itself to a lot of labels. So,
yeah.
that was a big one that he broke off of me, starting with a retreat called the Walk to Emmaus. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it was quite an eye-opening, a 3-weekend retreat, and he started that. And then with one of my writing mentors, and just going through that. So when it came time to write the book, it kind of came out pretty quickly because it had already been a years long journey of walking through things with God to identify some of the labels. And so it came out pretty quickly, but it took uh, 4 years for it to really come out into book form and to actually be brave enough to stand with him, to like put it out there in the public and know, because labels are I mean, they're kind of a hot topic right now, but we label everything, and a lot with race and gender, and all of that is very hot topics right now. So one of the things that he kind of showed me, I call them our core labels in the book, but
Yeah.
is to come into an understanding. I mean, to really bring healing, we have to know our true identity, and to know where our true identity comes from, and who I believe, that comes from the Lord, and who the Lord is. And when we realize, know his true identity of who he is, that's how we can know our true identity and who we are. So But some of the things I call the core labels are, our race, our gender, our humanity, and I have our age because a lot of people struggle with their age and accepting their age and all of that. So those are kind of the main ones that a lot of us want to change, but you
I
have
think I
to,
tried to change my age more when I was young
right?
because I was so much taller than everyone growing up. Everyone thought I was older. So I think I thought I was older, and my mom would tell you that too. She would tell you, she'd say, yeah, Judy, you thought you knew it all, well,
Right.
well, mom, you're right. I really did.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think, I think it's interesting, I can see a bunch of things from my childhood, and some of it still kind of lingers,
Hmm.
and you also wrote in one of your categories was those things that are unwanted.
Right.
But then also there's the things choose your own,
Hmm.
because so often we'll stay in the place of the unwanted ones.
Right.
I've walked with a lot of people um, through a lot of things, just some of it is, trauma from the past. And what the labels that were just spoken over their lives or to them, through abusive situations or things. And it's hard for them to really overcome those,
Yes.
but it can be done. It can be done. And you're right, it's going to the core.
Yeah.
um and then it's not always a one-day process because it
No.
didn't one day happen. Yeah.
No, it's pretty much a daily, sometimes hourly, sometimes daily process. I think, we have, and I think, a lot of us think, oh, it's just one, and once I do it and I'm done, and then we'll fall back into stuff, and then we get discouraged and get beaten down again, um and I think God is gracious and loving and kind, and I think part of the healing process is when we do fall back into it, but how quickly can we get back out of when we've
Yeah.
fallen down? How quickly can we get back up and do, and that's part of the healing process, and hopefully it will get shorter and shorter, the amount of time it takes to get back up. It's not about if you fall, it's if you how you get back up. So
Having the tool chest to use
yeah,
and putting it into practice,
yes.
because it doesn't all rely. I mean, I was in some counseling. My dad died young, and
Mhm.
just there was a variety of things. So I did go to a counselor when I was a teen, and I took those things as tools. And then years and years later, I went back to that same counselor for something else was just going on, and I just needed a separate person to talk to. So I called up this place. I met with the person again, and they didn't necessarily remember, my teen visit or anything. But he goes, "Why are you here? You already have the steps, the options, And I'm like, "Oh, I learned to quit then."
Right.
I just didn't know how to put it into place. So
Right.
talking through it with them again was helpful.
Mhm.
So I think there's great value in a counsel person, but then we also do need to use those tools in our own life. So
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think that, that's one of the acts that we can, maybe get into later on, but that I have you go through, but you need other people sometimes. Like we can't always just do it on our own. Sometimes we need others to help us when we know what we're supposed to do, but it's hard for us to do it ourselves. Like we can tell everybody else all day long how to do it and fix their problems for them, but even though we know, sometimes we still need a little bit of help ourselves to get through sometimes. So
accountability through a friend, a counselor, a coach. There's a
yes.
wide variety of things that can be very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had some of the things I had no idea I'd talk about the counseling part. So I'm like, how do I shift to that other thing I wanted to bring up?
Right.
you know, because I did some ministry work in Haiti.
Wow.
And we were asking, one of the things that I liked in doing, and maybe that's kind of why I like to do this right here. We were asking the artisans, I was teaching business to artisans. I was not an artist at that time. Okay?
Wow.
Well, deep down, but.
Right.
And interviewing them, a lot of them said they did not have a dream, a
Mm,
purpose, a plan, an idea. They were just used to settling, surviving, living in what they knew instead of daring to think of something different.
mm,
So that really impacted me as I was, interviewing 20 some artisans.
mm.
And then even yesterday, a friend was at my house and I said, "What are the dreams that you have?" He goes, "I don't have any." And so it just brings up that point again that um, was there a label somewhere that held us back from thinking of other possibilities?
Yeah.
That we often settle and think that we're going to, like you had said, that we're staying in one place instead of knowing we can step out and do something different.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, 2020 like definitely brought a lot of that to light, I think even more and more people had time to stay home, than they did before. And they're like, so instead, they're like, well, what else can I do? So I think, that it brought a lot of people to search for, a dream or something that, I mean, the enemy might have meant it for harm, but God, I think, used a lot of that for his good and to, open up that for a lot of people to be able to step in and search and seek to, that there's more than just surviving and, going to the 9 to 5, putting in the time and, just plodding along. So,
As I think about the Haiti people, we used a thing called asset-based community development,
mm,
ABCD, and actually an organization here in town did it, and I used to work part-time with them. And that everybody has something to give,
yes,
something of value, no matter where they're at in their journey. If they are stuck in the place of limitation, they still have something to offer. And sometimes when you engage them, that's where they can bloom and overcome.
mm-hmm,
And I really think sometimes that those labels that I'm shy, so I can't talk about, or I'm, there's I mean, I think about it. I'm a writer too, blogging. I haven't put a book together, but I know that's in there somewhere. And looking up, if you were to search adjectives and go through a list of just general adjectives, the majority of them are negative.
mm, yeah, that is true. That is true. Yeah.
And does that say something about our English language,
Mm-hmm. Mm,
and our mode of communicating?
yeah. 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 I mean, it's way, unfortunately, I mean, I've experienced it in our own life, but unfortunately, it's way easier to draw to the negative. Like it's, inside of us that once you like go down that path, it's just so easy to find those words to attach to that emotion and lots of times you don't even realize that you are. I mean, like my husband and our journey, we had a lot of hard stuff. So there was a lot of negative and at home we could go down that negative rehashing, they did this to me, blah, 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 this and that. And then in public we would be like, oh, we're happy, we're fun. But we really weren't because that kind of still portrayed through because that you're so immersed in it, you don't really see it, and like you said, I don't think we really see the negative words around us sometimes, like it's just
Yeah.
always there. I was doing like a fun, like an experiment. I woke up one morning and I was just like, okay, God, I'm going to be thankful, today. And like recognize the things you've done for me and all that. And like the first thing I woke up is my phone was plugged in all night, I thought, and I picked
Oh, you
it
froze.
up and it didn't charge all night. And it was like that. And I'm like, did I lose me? Oh, can you hear me?
Now it looks like we're back normal.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, cool. But I had looked at my phone and I was like, dang it didn't even charge, you stupid phone. And I was like, oh, what? Like, I just 5 seconds ago, I was like, God, I'm not going to say, like, not going to go say that kind of stuff. And like, already I'm like, stupid phone. So I was like, we don't even realize, like, how easily it just is always there, you know? And
there's a guy named Steve Backlund who wrote a book, but at the same time, I had the verse, it's a death and life are in the power of the tongue.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, those who love it will eat its fruit, right? So he had a book which was about, and online he does this, I think they do an annual one, negativity fast.
Oh, wow.
So it was about recognizing those words, like you were saying, the ones we speak over ourselves, the ones we speak over others. So that just really helped shift my thought patterns. That and turning off TV.
Yes. Definitely turning off news, TV. But yeah. Social media getting sucked down that.
Well, on social media, I hear what's happening from other people.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, now I can search, specific things instead of having to hear the whole big thing.
Exactly.
Because you're right. And in your book, you wrote a little bit about labels and about, this was what you said the first election of President Trump.
Yes.
And gosh, that's brought so much division that you can't have a normal, well, I think even before him, you couldn't really have normal political discussions.
No.
It was, if you stated one thing only out of 280 things,
right.
You're in a different group and you're no longer okay. A label was put on you.
Yes.
And I think your book writes well about, how society just in our interrelations is doing that. And it's time for it to stop.
Exactly. 100% agree. Yes. But yeah, it brings, so much. Once you hear the one word, it just like brings up a wall, and you can't a lot of times get past that wall, because of just one word. And so, learning to there's definitely power in words, but also I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this because there's definitely, power in the words, like you said, recognizing the words you say, but also sometimes we give too much power to a word. Does that make sense? That word comes with a power to it that's already put on there by so many outside forces, but it's also just a word, and
You're right.
So it doesn't have to have that power connected to it, but we give it that power.
I'm understanding exactly what you're talking
about. Okay, good. I didn't know if it was coming across.
Someone, I even growing up, the way some things were stated around my house, my mom's house, and my mom watches this, and Mom, this is no offense, okay? But sometimes the way something is stated, we take it in a way that shouldn't be.
Right.
And I know that even her and we went through a bumpy spot in our relationship where my words, no matter how I said them, hurt her. Right. And I wasn't trying to. I was just trying to state something, and we finally have overcome that. But I so many relationships, have that you don't dare say. How many parents nowadays, they don't dare say hello to their children because that's offending the kids in some way. Right. Yeah. But that's true. And it shouldn't be. But, then you have to try and find out what's really making, that wall go up that's holding people back
Right.
because we
Yeah.
don't always know.
No.
So we've just got a few minutes left here. I did not set a timer because ding, ding, ding.
Right.
But I know also I want to read something from your book because you and I are going to talk again, aren't we?
Yes, that'd be wonderful.
All right. And you have a second part to your book besides just talking. It's a small but very potent book. It talks about how to remove hurtful labels given to you by others, deal with hurtful labels that you have accepted and now believe, which is what we just were talking about, right? Because even if they weren't meant that way,
Right.
God brought me through a lot of processing about family dynamics that were never addressed in any counseling. He just gave me an awareness that was helped me to heal.
Mm.
Come to acceptance with core labels or labels that are beyond ability, control, and to me, a most exciting part, which I love it. Like write another book just on this Christmas, or I will. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. We can do it together.
Hey, it says add new and exciting labels and beliefs about yourself that only you get to choose to define you.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, I like that one a lot because we have so many opportunities and possibilities. There aren't really limitations except for here.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. For sure. For sure. And um that was exciting part to write. It was, and to go through that process, to be able to choose ones that, you know, were true to my identity that I had learned. My dad was a pastor, so I grew up in the church, in that, and it was things I thought I knew here, but didn't truly believe 100% in my heart. I really know what God was saying about his identity and my identity till later on, and being able to step into that and release ones. I mean, like you said, there was some labels, like, I mean, one that I re did things to was resilient, because through a lot of things people are like, oh, you're so resilient, and I kind of hated that, because that meant I had to go through a lot of crap to be resilient. But when recognizing, going through some of the acts, going what resilient really was, I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. That you can actually be resilient. So it's kind of changing what was negative that I took as negative, and changing how that could be applied to me. And so, that was part of the process of getting to add some labels, or bring healing to ones that I didn't like. But then once, you got rid of all the stuff, then they were actually good and they could stay there, So that was a fun part to go through with God.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna connect again. And
Right.
we usually close out with prayer. Would you pray for us today?
Yes, I would love to.
Thank you.
Dear Jesus, we just thank you for Judy. We thank you for what she is doing, bringing encouraging conversations and sharing joy and sharing you with others. And we just thank you that we can connect with each other, that we can connect with you. We thank you that you are the author and creator of all things wonderful, God, and that you give us wonderful labels, Lord, and that there is no fear, there is no condemnation, there is no judgment in you are in the labels that you have for us. And we just rejoice in that, God. And so we just thank you for who you are. We thank you for what you are doing. We just ask for your healing and your love and your joy and your peace to be shared across our world and with those that we encounter each day, God. And we just stand in unity with you now. And thank you. In your name. Amen.
Thank you, Krystal. It's good
Thank you, Judy.
to discover
Yes.
more. It's
Yes.
I love to discover. I never knew that. But all right. Goodbye for now. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.